I don't know whether you get this very often wherever you go, but I'm getting more and more people saying, you know, Donald Trump, he really is somebody to admire because he goes for it. He makes a decision and he acts and he does things. I mean, even if some people feel they're outrageous, and even, frankly, if 50% of them don't work, he does actually sort of speak positively.
Yeah, it does. It does feel like the attitude towards him has changed quite a lot. And definitely since 2016.
Yeah, in exactly an hour's time, we're going to be going through a list of things that maybe, and please contribute, things that maybe we could be learning from him. Lessons to learn from Donald Trump. What would you say is something you think, why don't we do that?
Do get in touch on that.
Yeah,
I'll be really interested to see what people say about that. Because in the UK, I think the attitude towards him is still different to, obviously, over in the US. I think people are a little bit more sceptical here. Some slightly changing their view, but nonetheless, do get in touch, gbnews.com/your say on that.
What are the lessons we could learn from Donald Trump, in your view? Get in touch, and we'll be talking about that, particularly in exactly an hour's time. Right now, though, we're still talking about Donald Trump because he has now made it very clear that he is not going to deport Prince Harry. As he says, the Duke already has enough problems with his wife. She's horrible. Or she's terrible.
Called her terrible, that's right, yeah. Well, it comes after the Duke and Duchess of Sussex cheered on the UK team at the Invictus Games opening ceremony. And we're joined now by royal broadcaster Helena Chard. Helena, thank you for joining us. What did you make of the Duke and good morning. What did you make of the Duke and Duchess making that appearance yesterday?
Oh, well, goodness, it was an electric, I think, time actually in the stadium, BC Place Stadium. But and I'm sure they were feeling elated hearing Trump's announcement, which is quite funny. Got enough problems with his wife. She's terrible. So I think they had a great time. I mean, just to remember, it's a 9-day sporting event in Vancouver, Whistler. And actually, it is Harry's best work, I would say. Invictus, meaning undefeated in Latin. It was electric. As usual, Meghan sort of turned up fairly last minute, was looking very loved up and doing a fabulous performance of Unity. I think they've still got Ashley Hansen, who is their sort of PR person, who's guiding them, wanting them to look more united and doing more joint sort of appearances. So hopefully, well, for them, this has worked. We saw Meghan with her blue pom-poms, sitting on the seat, having a good time. It was good fun, I think, for everybody. Just remembering what it's all about. It's a sort of, games. It's an international multi-sport event, and it is actually aimed at the wounded and injured and sick armed forces personnel and veterans. 500 competitors came together from 23 countries. And it was, I tried to watch it actually on a live stream, but there was a lot of interference. But it just seemed like everyone was having a lovely time, and there was flying sort of whales, dolphins in the you could see. I think is that them arriving?
That's them arriving. Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about, particularly though, because in the light of what President Trump has said, he clearly likes the idea of Prince Harry, and he's not going to seek to deport him. But he clearly made it very clear that he didn't like Meghan, and so the two turn up, and it's great to see them together. And I quite agree with you. The games themselves are wonderful and quite an achievement for Harry. But there's no doubt they were incredibly loved up when they arrived. I don't know why we're seeing the inauguration there. But there's no doubt that their public display of affection was really for President Trump, wasn't it?
I think it quite possibly was, but as I said, I know that Ashley Hansen has advised them as well to be more together. I mean, obviously, what can we say? Meghan Markle isn't particularly liked, and I think it's self-induced. She comes over as quite disingenuous, and we've heard about the grief grifting. I mean, there's so many stories, and now, obviously, this has now followed them into the US. We've known about it from the UK, but feel that, yeah, she put on a great performance. But Prince Harry did really well. And I think, in a way, it's a plus sign for them, in that, going forward, hopefully Meghan's going to learn something from, keeping slightly back. But she did make a speech to begin with. I think it wasn't actually in the main arena, and was talking very much about family, and it was quite very much about them as a family, and then sort of introducing the Warriors. But I think lovely just to see the excitement of all the bands performing. I think that was really good fun. We had Chris Martin, who was giving a great performance. That was a sort of an introduction from Her Excellency, the Right Honourable Mary Simon, Nelly Furtado. As I said, Meghan and her pom-poms. And I think just to remember as well, Chris Martin, who's a great performer. He actually penned the Invictus anthem in 2014, and did a sort of like performance.
OK, look, we'll leave it there for the moment, Helena. Thanks very much indeed for that. I think you're dead right. I mean, the excitement over the games is quite something. But the public display
Let's
of
see
affection...
what happens.
I mean, they weren't just holding hands. She grabbed his face and snogged. Yeah. I mean, there's no other word for it. And you don't usually see that.
Well, you heard Helena say it might be an exercise in PR more than anything else. They've got people advising them very closely, haven't they?
So cynics would say, I suppose.
So cynics would say.
Yeah. OK. Are you that cynical about them? I think you may be. Ever such a lot of people already getting in touch saying, lessons we could learn from Donald Trump. Where do you start? And we're getting a list, so keep your thoughts coming. Yep. My goodness, those pictures of Harry and Meghan at the Invictus Games, they were putting on such a public display of affection, you couldn't help but think that's for Donald Trump.
Well, as possible. And good morning to you too as well. I mean, what a put down by Donald Trump, though. That is something, and he's not forgotten the fact that Meghan said, when she went to Canada, remember when she went to Canada and was going to move to the States, I'm not going to go there if Donald Trump becomes is president. And what did she do? Moves to Montecito. It's quite incredible that he's said this, and he's obviously got no love lost, as have a great many people for Meghan, and he's made his voice quite clear on this.
Yes, I mean, and it's quite unusual to see sort of things like that being said, even if it's probably voicing what a lot of people think. What did you think, though, when you saw the pictures of them? Like I said, these public displays of affection, it's not something we normally see from them, but she was snogging her husband. Now, I'm not suggesting there's anything wrong with that, except that we don't usually see it.
No, we don't. I mean, you've got to work out what is happening in the background. I mean, I don't subscribe to this social media scenario, their marriage is on the rocks and they're going to split up. I don't see any signs of that, at all. And I sincerely hope that their marriage doesn't split up, because really, in reality, they've only got each other and no one else. But yeah, I mean, clearly there's been some talks in the background that they've got to put on more of a united front, because everything else that they've tried beforehand hasn't really worked. And I'm not saying that what she did with snogging him and everything else is false. I sincerely believe that they have got affection and love for each other. But, it's a bit suspicious that it's suddenly being done now. But of course, when you see Catherine and William together in, friendlier moments, she's putting her arm on William and everything else. Well, that's in effect, that's the same thing. Okay, so there's no snogging involved straight away. But I mean, it's a bit much criticizing them for doing that when you see it in other members of the royal family. I mean, one thing I would like to say, I'm not a fan of Harry or Meghan, as you know, but I have to say, when it comes to the Invictus Games, I cannot fault him or her on this. What they do, and it's what they're supposed to do, what members of the royal family are supposed to do, is highlight the subject that they're dealing with, and there's no question that they are highlighting that subject, and quite rightly.
Yeah.
Absolutely, hear. Charles, it's good to talk to you. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, and a happy Sunday. Actually, it's interesting because they're the subject of our poll of the day, or at least Harry is. It's a simplistic question. It's, should Prince Harry return to the UK? Yeah,
interesting. And we'll be bringing you the live results throughout the day, so make sure to stay tuned. The final result will be announced later in Nana A Quiz Show.